Hello, everyone. Up next, we have embedding DeFi actions into safe accounts. This will be presented by Connor Howe, who is the co-founder of Enso Finance. So I hope you enjoy this one. Thank you.
Hello, hello. Thank you for coming. Hey. Today we're going to be going through embedding DeFi actions natively within safe accounts. The agenda for today is giving you some context on DeFi, the landscape, how it is to integrate DeFi without smart accounts, how easy it is to integrate DeFi with smart accounts, and an overview of the Enso API. And last but definitely not least, we will give you a full code overview of a DeFi Telegram bot built using Enso and Safe. So, first of all, spelling error, just notice that there. Second of all, the DeFi landscape is large. So on DeFi Llama, there's over 2,900 DeFi protocols. On chain, there's probably 10,000 plus. Where this ecosystem will grow is in the hundreds of thousands on every single EVM chain in the forthcoming years. For developers to integrate DeFi as of today is very cumbersome on time, energy, and on the monetary side. For one DeFi integration, we've seen many projects that take 4+ weeks. Why? Because you need to have a modular architecture, you need to build manual smart contract adapters, custom indexers, custom metadata service, and on top of all of this, after you've done that work, you need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on the audit costs. With this kind of architecture that people have chosen, there's no reusability. So let's say you were to build a DeFi integration, you were to build a DeFi adapter, then no one can interchange and use each other's, which creates further fragmentation of this ecosystem. So in this diagram, this is how most protocols or even applications build integrations to other DeFi protocols. You need to build your core contract, which will have a modular architecture, allowing you to plug and play other DeFi integrations. You need to build an adapter for every single DeFi protocol in Solidity. These are simply just wrappers of how to interact with Aave. And you can see this generally doesn't scale. Every single application is building their architecture this way. All these generally are doing is bundling different DeFi actions into one transaction with some fancy accounting on top, tokenization, yield farming, and so forth. For a developer, if you've built any DeFi integrations, you know yourself that you need to rebuild every single integration from scratch, which also creates a further security risk and to a certain degree a regulation risk. If you have let's say a mobile wallet that's built on top of Safe with DeFi actions and the user wants to integrate with Aave, they're not only integrating with Aave, they're also needing to trust all of your smart contracts, which creates a lot more security vulnerabilities. There's no reusability, there's limitations on composability, as these protocols generally blacklist and whitelist what protocols can and cannot be used. And it's an auditor's dream. So auditors get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to review the same code of how to interact with UniV2, UniV3, Aave, Yearn, and so forth. We're all building these isolated silos, and nobody's connecting with each other for DeFi. With smart accounts, you can avoid all of this now. So you don't need to build manual smart contract adapters. You don't need to build a modular smart contract architecture. You simply can directly integrate with the smart account into Aave, Yearn, Convex, Balancer, Aura, whatever it may be. All you need to now worry about is the bundling and encoding. Since Safe has delegate calls enabled, and they also have multi-send, you're now able to encode all the function signatures and the interactions into these DeFi protocols into one transaction, saving an overhead of hundreds of thousands of dollars on the audits, Solidity developers, and time to market. You're now able to release a DeFi integration within the same day. This is what we focus on at Enso. So we offer kind of two APIs. We offer one, which is an execution API, where you're able to do swaps, LPs, vaults, borrowing, arbitrary calls, lending, whether this is tokenized or this is also staked. So certain DeFi protocols associate your interaction with the address that's interacting with it, not by a tokenized position. Some protocols like this are Liquidity, borrowing on Aave, and so forth. All of this has native transaction bundling and also smart order routing compatible with smart accounts. The second API that we've created, if you want to build your own wallets, you want to build your own treasury management tool, you want to build your own asset management tool, we also offer APY, TVL, all pools, all logos, URLs, a full out-of-the-box kit for interacting with DeFi. This is the architecture. Your user will have their own safe smart account. Your front end will call our back end, requesting what actions you want to do. Remember in the previous slide, you can do lending, borrowing, fixed yields, LP, vault, swapping. And there's no limitation of how much you can combine together. The only limitation is actually the gas limit of the block itself. So you make a request, you get all this call data back, and then the user submits this through their safe account, and it delegate calls into our contract, so all the state stays inside of the safe account. That way you're able to just do one API call for all of DeFi. As of today, including all the forks, we have over 400 protocols available. This is a simple API request of what you want to do. So how do you kind of securely do this, since you're encoding function signatures of DeFi protocols on-chain? You have to run simulations. So you encode all of the actions, you simulate all of this. Is it possible to do this? What's the expected outcome? What's the anticipated, what do you require to be the input? Two tools you can do this with, Tenderly. I'm sure everyone knows and loves Tenderly. Out-of-the-box simulation tool. And then also you can use our simulation tool. So we open sourced this, built in Rust on top of Foundry, purely because we were getting throttled, which we're not anymore, thankfully. One day we were doing like 800,000 requests of simulations. So yeah, a lot of simulations. And what we're going to do now is show to you how easy it is to use this API, compatible with Safe. So anyone building a wallet, a treasury management tool, an asset management platform, you can just plug and play this. Telegram bots are the hype. You've got Unibot, you've got Maestro, another one called Banana came out, was doing a pre-sale. Not condoning this pre-sale, but that's what they're doing. But they all have a centralization risk. They're all controlling the private keys. So what if we were able to build a DeFi Telegram bot, fully non-custodial, on top of Safe for all of DeFi with transaction relays? And that's what we're going to do today. The tools that we're going to use without the transaction relay, we're going to use Botfather, which is just Telegram, Grammy, Tenderly, Safe, and the Enso API. With this, like I said earlier, you can route tokens, you can also route state, and it's an all-in-one package. So let's try it. So the first thing we're going to do is just get all the projects that are available to be used through Enso on this Telegram bot. So we're just going to do projects. You just can't see this. I don't know how to zoom in on Telegram. If anyone knows the shortcut, let me know. Anyone? Okay. TLDR here, you can see all the projects, well, a filter list of projects that we're showing for this example. And here you've got, let's say, Aave, Balancer, and so forth. And let's take Balancer, and let's fetch all the pools related to Balancer. So we've also trimmed the amount of list, so it's not too much. Here you will get all the TVL, all the APY, all the pool addresses related to Balancer. And let's say you wanted to present to your user the APY just for one pool position. And then you just paste the address. And here you get the APY for that pool. And this is the query here. Let's say, for example, we want to directly deposit into a DeFi position. Now, many DeFi positions, you can either directly deposit if you've already got the underlying. You may not have the underlying. Certain DeFi positions require other DeFi tokenized positions. So let's say a Beefy vault requires an Aura vault, which requires a Balancer vault, which requires 2 underlying token. We're able to do these multi-hop deposits into Beefy. So I'm going to go in with 1 ETH, and then I'm going to only do one token to one token, but you can also do native transaction bundling. So if you want to enter 50 DeFi positions in one transaction, you can. Fetching route. Now it's been simulated, and it'll give you the expected token amount out. And if you're seeing the raw API call, you'll also get the gas, all the individual smart contract calls, so you can verify the call data yourself if you want. And now we're pushing this to Tenderly, all through a safe. And we can just pull up this transaction hash. And you can see that this has went in from ETH into an 80 balancer and 20 WETH position, all through a Gnosis safe. Now, in this example is very, very interesting because we are also a solver for CowSwap. So if you go to CowSwap and you want to enter DeFi positions, we are one of the solvers that's providing these routes. And AviDAO used Enso indirectly through Cow a couple of weeks ago. They wanted to enter, I think, exactly this position for $1.5 million. And we solved that route. We were able to save them, I think it was 8K in comparison to all the other solvers. Yeah, I mean, you can see all the calls inside here. One thing to note about this, how long do we have? Okay, we're good. So one thing to note, a lot of these other, let's say, DeFi API solutions are only tokenized. Ours is also staked and compatible with Safe. But the other major difference is we're able to take the return values of the previous call into the next call at the point of execution. So in this example, we have no dust and the transaction doesn't fail. If you were to use other providers that's doing multi-call or multi-send, say I want to go ETH to DAI, DAI to Yearn, they would estimate how much DAI you would get back from the swap before it gets put on chain. You can probably know if you estimate 1.6K, the point of it gets executed could be less, your whole transaction reverts. If it's more, then you're actually left with dust in the account. So ours is the full amount at the point of execution on chain. And to do this with a safe, it's very easy. The Safe SDK is very versatile. It's a great tool. If no one's used it, highly, highly recommend it. And inside of this, you're able to do delegate calls. Delegate calls enable that all of the state, all the tokens, stay inside of the safe itself that's submitting the transaction. A lot of other providers, if you're to use them, you would be calling their contracts, and the tokens would stay inside of those contracts. You'd need to then transfer them out, and you can't do particular state transitions. Cool. So that's a short but sweet demo. I wish we could have zoomed in on the Telegram, but you know, you got to roll with it. To summarize all the actions that you're able to do with Enso, compatible with Safe, you can do batching. All the batching also takes into account the smart order routing. So if you're going into 20 positions, what's their underlying tokens? What's the best path to get those underlying tokens? You know, we're even able to do these complex routes of depositing into a pool, burning that pool token to get another token in that pool. So it's really, really optimized on all of the graphing side. Lending, borrowing, LPing, vaults, relaying, and yeah, I mean, relaying, we don't provide this, but you can use like ZeroDev, Biconomy, all of these other tools. It's a plug and play. We have our project that's launched already that's doing this with the Enso API. And then you can also leverage automation. So let's say you're Brahma and you want to offer a DeFi automation tool with Gelato, you can also plug and play Enso inside of this. And there's also custom builders, so you can pass in arbitrary calls. So let's say, for example, Enso doesn't offer something that you want. You're able to also manually input this as well. That's a quick overview. So is there any questions about Enso, how it's compatible with Safe? I think we've got maybe around 10 minutes left.
All right. Not sure if I need the mic, but fine. Do you guys also do like reward claiming? So let's say I'm LPing somewhere and then there's like a token being accrued.
Yep. So all claiming of rewards as well. So if you want to batch claim and offer this to your user, that maybe they've entered into 50 pools or whatever it may be, they can do this within one transaction. You can even offer kind of innovative portfolio management on this. So you could say claiming all my rewards, converting them to ETH, and then depositing on these 20 different pools, all within one transaction.
Got it, cool. Thanks.
Thanks.
What's the business model, or if there's a token, how does it accrue value?
No comment on the token. Generally, people that integrate this, it's all free to use as of today. Anybody that is charging fees to their users themselves, we generally have a discussion based upon their amount of volume, their traction, their user base, and their brand. Then we discuss a fee split that they're charging to their users.
When it comes to metadata, I assume you can query per address and get like all the values of composable positions. Yes?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we don't. Thanks for asking this one. We actually haven't put enough emphasis on this. So, you know, to use DeFi, if you're a user and you go into, like, let's say, a platform, you've got all these different options of DeFi. What if you were to join and you've already got a DeFi position, but you want the same exposure to the underlying token on different DeFi protocols? So we've got an endpoint called the Opportunities API that you can just paste in an address from all the tokens they currently have, where can they go, and how much API can they generate, and then batch this all within one transaction. This is kind of going into the intent space to a certain degree, right? So you've got the intent execution, then you've got the data layer, then you've got the interpretation layer. So we're kind of offering two parts of this so far. Thanks.
You already touched briefly on what I was going to ask with regards to the intent-focused part. Could you elaborate a bit more on that?
So intent's really simply put, or saying I have X and I want Y, and I don't care. I flew from Zurich yesterday to Berlin. I didn't care about the gas refuels. I didn't care about the cities I was going over. Didn't care about all the regulation. That's generally what intents are. I have this and I want that. Now, what we do is we find the most optimal paths based upon these intents. We're kind of the execution layer and the data layer, and then other people on top of us are the interpretation layer. So we have projects such as LangWallet. LangWallet are building like a language model based upon the data we provide, and then using that to interpret what the user's needs are to then pass it to execution. So intents are basically a fancy word of, I have this and I want that.
Yeah, and I think there's also a trend now where we're moving from like automated market makers towards intent-based limit order transactions. Do you see maybe like a future as well where you're able to combine like a central limit order book of all these DeFi protocols that everyone can tap into through API?
Yes. So providing our own flow, for example, and then taking exposure and then hedging it and so forth, yes. That's kind of what we're exploring on CowSwap. So we're one of the solvers there. We're going to be providing solvers to all these different intent interfaces as well. The intents really changed the whole game. You know, it's a full shift of how interactions should be done on chain. Instead of being confined just to the chain, you can use the chain and off-chain for all of this. As long as the request can be validated that the person submitting it will give you the end result that you want, then for me, I think it's a completely game-changing paradigm. A lot of solvers, as of today, are bringing their own float. You know, if you put, let's say, 100K of USDC down and you want to get all of the stablecoin swaps, you're going to win because your gas is the lowest, right? And then you can also hedge this off-chain and so forth. So has it been built for us just yet? No. Is it something we're looking into? Yes. Cool. No more questions, maybe? Oh, you got one? Cool.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick one. I think we talked about it a little bit, but since all the calculations are done off-chain, like how are you thinking about the security part? I mean, I get it. Custody is still on-chain. You can use safe. You can use whatever you want, right? But there's still, for example, some pool manipulation risk, I guess, or like, anyway, what's your view on the security overall? I guess that's the question.
It's a really valid question. So our smart contracts are, let's say, a bundling technique. We worked with Nick Johnson on this, and Dean Engelman and so forth. And these smart contracts have 5 audits. These contracts were actually forked as the first version of the universal router, and the like Uniswap Uni router, and it works in a similar model that all of the execution happens on chain, and this contract is just relaying the data to do the execution. Now, what happens off chain is kind of where the risk can lie to a certain degree. With that, you need to do transaction simulations. You need to do function signature matching of the ABIs inside of the contracts related to the addresses that you paste inside. And then we run like a continuous scraping, we call it sanitization process, that validates that everything that we have is correctly submitted. Where this can go is more decentralization, maybe to the token in the future, of a kind of IPFS, and you're able to kind of have others host individual actions so that there's no centralization risk on that side as well.
Got it, thanks. And now it's just like AWS hosted, or I guess some centralized service?
No, it's kind of split among different services. And then it's also an IPFS, and it's also hashed, and then we've also got a registry and so forth in the worst case scenario. But,
Okay.
I mean, it all gets simulated. You get all the call data back, so you're able to validate it. You're able to verify that what we have returned is what you've asked, because it also has all the individual steps. It's similar to kind of, I mean, 1inch. They've got a centralization risk to a certain degree, right? So we go the extra mile for giving you all the information so you can validate it yourself if you would like to do so.
Okay, got it, thanks.
Hey, can you do some cross-chain bundling?
Hey, people are coming with the great questions today. Loving it. So yes, we have a collaboration with Socket. So any cross-chain DeFi you would like to do, you're able to do this through Enso. So we manage all of the swaps, all of the bundles, all of the DeFi actions, and then Socket manages the bridge aggregation. What's very interesting about this one is you're also able to build the arbitrary bundles. You know, people talk about bridges being able to pass messages across chain. With Enso, you can actually build these messages properly and then cross-chain and submit them on the other side. And with this, since we're able to use the return values of the previous call into the next one, a lot of other solutions get failing transactions, but with us, whenever it gets on the other chain, full transaction will submit based upon kind of your slippage criteria. So the answer to your question is yes. Yeah. We have a React hook adapter for it, so it's plug and play. Yeah. Any more questions? No? Cool. Thank you so much. It was great fun. And if you've got any questions, feel free to let me know, or any of the Enso team. Thank you.